The death toll from the catastrophic Texas flooding has risen to 104. Officials in Kerrville are facing growing scrutiny over whether enough warnings were issued ahead of the deadly flooding.
This is crews continue looking for survivors. Fox's Connor Hansen joins us live from there with the latest. Connor.
Alex, you can see just a little bit of the damage behind me where these floodwaters tore down massive trees, and there is so much more of it. Just to give you some perspective, where I'm standing right now, at its peak, these floodwaters were higher than my head right now. But the focus is still on these search and rescue efforts, even though the terrain around here has gotten increasingly difficult, and there's still rain in the forecast into tomorrow. Crews in Central Texas are working around the clock, looking for those still missing after the weekend's devastating floods. Dozens of people are dead, but officials are holding out hope that they can find more survivors.
Every foot, every mile, every bend of the river. Our work continues.
With more rain hitting the state, they're asking volunteers to stay away from search sites.
We then have to pull off of those search and rescue missions to make sure that they don't become victims themselves.
Operators at Camp Mystic, an all-girls Christian camp, say they lost more than 24 campers and counselors after water slammed into cabins along the Guadalupe River. Richard Bela described his feelings picking up his daughter from a nearby camp.
It's just sad enough, leaving her there for a month. And some of them just dropped them off and they ain't seeing them for the rest of their lives.
Meanwhile, local officials are facing criticism over a lack of evacuation orders before the flooding. Senator Ted Cruz says conversations could be had about earlier flood detection.
In hindsight, if we could go back and do it again, we would evacuate particularly those in the most vulnerable areas. And officials here say there will be a full review of that flood warning system in the coming weeks. Alex, Christine.
We want to ask you about that warning system. A lot of people talking about that. Were they not heard by some, not enough?
Well, it's an extremely challenging situation. The first flood watch went out on Thursday afternoon and then a flash flood warning Thursday night. But those more serious emergency alerts did not go out until after 1 in the morning Friday, of course, in the middle of the night when a lot of people were sleeping. And in some of the more remote parts of this river where some of those camps are, it's extremely difficult to get cell service. So a challenging situation, especially when a month's worth of rain fell in just a matter of hours. We've heard stories of people going from house to house, from camp to camp, trying to warn each other, but tragically, it was too late for so many people.
We know this is right in the heart of President Trump's base. Have we heard of any visits from him?
What we're hearing right now is that the president will likely come here by the end of the week. He mentioned Friday as a possibility, but we'll be watching closely. We're expecting him to come down here, tour some of the damage, and speak to some of the people involved in this response. We know some members of his cabinet have already been in the area and talking about the services they've been providing, whether it's the Coast Guard or other federal agencies that are coming in to help out the local authorities.
Now, the conversation being had is that over job cuts at the National Weather Service. Did that impact the forecasts?
Yeah, that's going to be a really hot topic here as we kind of delve into the investigation into if this could have been done better. Could there have been a better warning system? Of course, the federal government is insisting that it did not have an impact, but expect to see a lot of questions on Capitol Hill.
Yes, indeed. Connor Hansen, thank you for your reporting. We'll get an update next hour from you.
Right here in North Carolina, an 83-year-old woman was killed when floodwaters from remnants of Tropical Storm Chantal swept her car from a rural road. The tropical depression dropped a massive amount of rain over the central part of that state. Several areas have been declared states of emergency. More than 22,000 customers are without power in that area.
Fox 11 Weather is sponsored by Yamava Resort and Casino.
All right, I'm Chief Meteorologist Adam Kruger back with you now as we start with this live view from Mount Wilson, and you can see a lack of sunshine and a little bit of smog in some spots. We actually have reduced air quality right now, especially out more so into the valleys in the Inland Empire, and that's going to be the case potentially for all of our Southern California zone for the most part through Thursday as we get into a hot, sunny pattern. Those ozone levels, or like smog, could be a little bit on the higher side. We mentioned before that, though, what's left of Chantal, which is not much, as it ran up the East Coast. I want to take you a little bit closer to around New Jersey. You see this little spin right here? That's what's left of Chantal, now a post-tropical cyclone. Really not too big of an impact, but there is some rain there that's going to be heading up towards the northeast. Shouldn't be extremely heavy, though. Now, as we come back over to the West Coast, a complete lack of clouds and rain for a lot of the western U.S. There's this area of high pressure which is currently bringing some very hot temperatures to the southwest. That's going to expand westward the next few days, which brings our heat wave. That's our big local weather story here, is the heat coming, and it's going to be especially hot on Wednesday and Thursday as that high situates itself right overhead. That's when we have some of those heat alerts in effect for our area. Temperatures right now, yeah, it's warm, but not too far out of the norm for this time of year. We've got some 90s and 80s across the Inland Empire. You see in the orange right here, that's where there's 80s. Then you see a blend towards some 70s in yellow and even a few 60s right along the immediate coast. In the valleys, we see some 80s out there right now as well. Overnight lows drop off pretty nicely back down to the low 60s for most spots, which is where we've been seeing those low temperatures for a while. There's no big change there. Even with this heat wave coming this week, there's going to be a minimal rise in the low temperatures, but of course the daytime highs is where we're really going to start to feel it. Here's an overview of the highs for tomorrow. So again, it's just gradually getting a little bit hotter. Keep in mind, low 80s is average for this time of year for LA. I think there's going to be a lot of mid and upper 80s specifically for Los Angeles, but of course the valleys in the Inland Empire will be hotter. Deserts, as you see, will be hot as well. And then we'll take you another day forward into Wednesday with the hottest temperatures being found in the low desert like Palm Springs, but even in the Inland Empire, we expect some 100s, probably a mix of a few 100s or 90s across the valleys. And then again, you see 80s and some 70s as you get closer to the coast. Like I said, Wednesday and Thursday looking to be our hottest days. You see that here on the 7-day forecast. So here's LA, Inland Orange County, right in the middle. We'll go upper 80s Tuesday, Wednesday, close to 90 degrees there. Thursday, right around 90 degrees. We do expect temperatures to start to go down, but it's not going to be a huge drop in temperatures by the end of this week. It's still warm on Friday. We're still on the warm side this weekend with temperatures in the 80s for LA and Inland Orange County. Now, the valleys and Inland Empire, we've got 90s for the most part tomorrow. I wouldn't rule out maybe a 100 somewhere in the IE. Overall hotter with those 100s on Wednesday and Thursday. Those are our heat alert days. We get into Friday. Yeah, it's coming down, but it's still warm. We still have some 90s over the weekend. And then here you see the mountains and the deserts, and the numbers that really jump out at you would be for the low desert like Palm Springs, where Wednesday and Thursday should be over 115.